There is a point in the life cycle of every console where the industry stops guessing and starts performing. By the year 2000, the PlayStation 1 wasn't just a piece of hardware, it was a solved puzzle. The jagged, vibrating edges of the mid-90s were gone, replaced by a level of technical polish that would have looked like black magic to us just 4 years earlier. And nowhere is that mastery more visible than in the house that Mickey built. We've tracked this relationship from the very beginning. Back in our first Disney bundle, we saw the awkward growing pains of a giant trying to find its footing in 3D. That quiet moment where I felt like the Magic Kingdom and I were finally drifting apart. Then in 1999, we saw the comeback. We saw Tarzan and Toy Story 2 prove that Disney wasn't just safe, they were essential, setting the benchmark for what a 32-bit platformer could actually achieve when the budget finally matched the ambition. But today, we are entering the endgame. We've just spent the last few entries of the Index surviving a grueling marathon. We clawed our way through a 100-game graveyard of clearance bin shovelware, and we stared directly into the sun with the catastrophic failure of Bubsy 3D. It was a necessary, albeit exhausting archival purge that left us needing a serious palate cleanser. This is the oasis at the end of the desert. We are kicking off a massive 10-game run that represents the absolute peak of the high-budget, late-era licensed title. This isn't just a collection of games. It's a time capsule of the year 2000, a year where the PlayStation 1 was putting up its best numbers even when the PlayStation 2 loomed on the horizon. We're moving away from the high-tech colouring books and into the age of the playable movie, from the high-speed theme park chaos of Magical Racing Tour and the toy box scale of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, to the genuine top-tier platforming brilliance of The Emperor's New Groove and 102 Dalmatians. We are even going to see how they handled the younger demographic with Tigger's Honey Hunt and the surreal, rhythm-based experiments of the Jungle Book. It's time to see how Disney conquered the twilight years of the 32-bit generation and turned the sunset of the PlayStation into a victory lap. Grab your memory cards and leave your Bobcat puns at the door. The Magic Kingdom is open for business. Welcome to the PSX Index. I'm Parasine, and this is the show where I play and document all 1,278 PlayStation 1 games released across Northern America, and this episode is Index entry 201 to 210. That number, 200, felt like a massive wall when we were staring it down at the clearance bin marathon. It was a milestone that demanded the sacrifice of time and sanity, but crossing it has brought us into a completely different era of the console's life. We are officially in the year 2000, the PlayStation 2 is already out in Japan, the hype for the next generation is a fever pitch, and yet the original grey box is arguably having its most consistent year of high quality releases. In our first Disney bundle, we saw the awkward transition from 16-bit sprites to 32-bit polygons, that moment where I felt like the Magic Kingdom and I were finally drifting apart as I look for the more mature experiences. In the second bundle, we saw the comeback where Tarzan and Toy Story 2 proved that Disney could match the technical ambition of any top-tier developer, but this third entry is something else entirely. This is a 10-game explosion of content. We aren't just looking at one or two flagship platformers. We are looking at an entire ecosystem of software. We have kart races, educational titles, rhythm games, and some of the most polished 3D platformers to ever grace the system. It's a massive undertaking, but after surviving the clearance bin and the Bobcat, I think I've earned a trip to the Magic Kingdom. We have 10 games to cover, a decade of nostalgia to unpack, and a whole lot of pixels to push. Let's get to work.
Well, hello there. Cricket's the name, Jiminy Cricket. And today I have a tale for you that's sure to make you smile. Well, at least I hope it does. It's all here in my storybook. It started this morning when our friends Chip and Dale were out exploring Walt Disney World and, well, they let their curiosity get the better of them. You see, through a small door in the side of the castle, they discovered a path that leads to one of the hidden treasures of the park. The Walt Disney World Magic Machine. I've never seen such a wondrous creation. And you know, it's used every night to shoot off the most beautiful fireworks. Well, those curious chipmunks got a little too close to that machine and accidentally dropped some of their acorns into it. And the machine didn't like that one bit. It huffed and it puffed and it tried to get itself unstuck, but it was no use. Those acorns gummed up the Gearsotronics and Springle pneumatics so badly that it just stopped working altogether. All our furry little friends could do was run for cover. The machine smoked and it sparked and it blew itself apart, sending pieces flying all over Walt Disney World. So now it's up to you to make sure the fireworks blast off tonight. You've got to help Chip and Dale find the pieces of the machine and put them back together in time for the show. Everyone visiting the park is depending on you. So good luck!
To understand why the year 2000 was so significant for this project, you have to look at the first game in the 10-title gauntlet, Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour. Released in March, this wasn't just another kart racer trying to catch the fumes of Crash Team Racing or Mario Kart. It was something far more specific and frankly far more ambitious. If you were a kid who grew up in the 90s, Disney World wasn't just a vacation destination, it was a mythological realm, and this game promised the impossible, a chance to race through the actual topography of the parks. We aren't talking about generic jungle levels or ghost houses, we are talking about Space Mountain, the Haunted Mansion, and Pirates of the Caribbean. For a long time, Disney games have been content for recreating the plots of their films, but Magical Racing Tour was different. It was an exercise in digital tourism. It was Traveller's Tales, the same studio that gave us the brilliant Toy Story 2, trying to translate the physical atmosphere of the theme park into a 32-bit engine. Mechanically, it's a fascinating pivot. After spending our last few episodes wrestling with the broken physics of the budget races and the clearance bin, playing Magical Racing Tour feels like driving a Cadillac. The handling is tight, the frame rate is surprisingly stable for how much the geometry is being pushed, and the soundtrack, composed of actual attraction themes, is an absolute nostalgia nuke. But there's a weird tension here that we're going to see throughout the entire bundle. In the previous Disney ports, we talked about that drift, the moment where I felt like I was outgrowing the Magic Kingdom. Magical Racing Tour is the ultimate test of that. It's a game that asks you to take the preschool aesthetic and apply pro-level kart racing mechanics to it. It shouldn't work, yet sitting here 26 years later, it's remarkably hard to put the controller down. It's the first sign that this era of Disney wasn't just about survival, it was about dominance.
As I live and breathe, you won! You've earned a golden cup. Collect all 9 cups for a big surprise.
Moving from the colourful, chirpy tracks of a theme park racer to our next entry, Disney's Dinosaur is a genuine case of whiplash. Released in May 2000, this game is a perfect artifact of Disney's experimental era. The movie itself was a massive technical gamble, a hybrid of live-action backgrounds and CGI characters, and the game tried to replicate that exact sense of scale and grit. This is where the Disney magic starts to lean into the PlayStation edge. Unlike the bright, bouncy platformers we've come to expect, Dinosaur is a top-down, party-based action-adventure game. You aren't just jumping on heads, you are managing 3 different characters with unique abilities, Aladar, Zini and Suri, to navigate a world that feels surprisingly hostile. It's essentially a My First RTS, and for a 32-bit console, the ambition is palpable. What's striking about Dinosaur is how much it rejects the safe Disney template. The environments are brown, grey and dusty. The music is sweeping and cinematic rather than catchy. It feels like Disney was looking at games like Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil and wondering if they could apply the same sense of environmental weight to a family-friendly license. Does it hold up? Well, it's clunky. The controls have that classic late-era PS1 heaviness, and the mission objectives can be frustratingly vague. But after the neon nightmare of Bubsy 3D, there is a level of intentionality here that I have to respect. It's a game that wants you to feel the weight of its world, even if the world is populated by giant lizards from a movie that history has mostly forgotten. It's the second step in the 10-game journey, and it's a reminder that by the year 2000, Disney was willing to get a little bit dirty. If Dinosaur was Disney trying to find a new, grittier identity, The Little Mermaid 2, Return to the Sea, is a sharp reminder of the old god. Released in September 2000, this game feels like it drifted in from a completely different era of the console's life. While the rest of the industry was obsessing over open world exploration and complex mechanics, Ariel was swimming back into a structure that felt comfortably, almost stubbornly retro. It's a collection of minigames and simple 3D swimming segments that honestly feels like it was designed for younger siblings of the kids who are currently losing their minds over Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. But here's the thing, after the archival stress of the clearance bin, there is something weirdly hypnotic about the simplicity here. It's a safe game. It doesn't want to challenge your reflexes. It wants to show you pretty colours and play you familiar songs. It's the digital equivalent of a warm blanket, and in the year 2000, it still had a very specific, very profitable place on the shelf.
Man, I'm so glad you're here. I gotta get Melody back to the castle quick, before her mother finds out she's gone. But Melody won't go until she gathers a few more gems from under the sea.
Oh, Sebastian, you worry too much. Besides, I need more gems to make my jewelry. Just one more dive, okay?
I can't stop her. So you better tag along to keep her out of trouble.
But then, we hit the massive hitters. Also released in September 2000 was Buzz Lightyear of Star Command. Now if you remember our last Disney bundle, Toy Story 2 was the game that changed everything for me. It was the moment I realised Disney games could be legitimately great. So coming into this spin-off, my expectations were dangerously high. Star Command is a fascinating pivot. It moves away from the collectathon exploration of the previous game and transforms into a high-speed, first-person shooter racer hybrid. Each level is a frantic sprint to the finish line to catch a villain before they escape. It's loud, it's chaotic, and it's unapologetically arcadey. What I love about this game is the scale. It manages to capture that Saturday morning cartoon energy perfectly. The voice acting is sharp, the weapons are creative, and the sense of momentum is genuinely impressive for the PlayStation 1. It's Traveller's Tales showing off again, taking a property that could have been a lazy cash-in and turning it into a mechanically tight, highly polished experience that rewards you for actually getting good at the game. It's a bridge between the safe Disney of the past and the high energy of the future of the PlayStation 2. Then we get to November 2000 and we hit what might be the sleeper hit of the entire 10-game run, 102 Dalmatians, Puppies to the Rescue. I know what you're thinking, a game about puppies based on a live-action sequel. This should be the definition of skipware, but you would be dead wrong. This game is quite literally one of the most competent and charming 3D platformers on the entire system. It takes the engine and the philosophy of Toy Story 2 and refines it. The levels are massive, the world is interconnected in a way that feels surprisingly modern, and the puppy vision mechanic, where the world shifts to help you find collectibles, is a genuine stroke of genius. It's one of those rare games where you can feel the developers actually having fun with the limitations of the hardware. They weren't just checking a box for a corporate license. They were trying to build the best platformer they possibly could. It's a high watermark for the genre, and it's the exact kind of hidden gem that makes this entire Index project worth the effort. brings us to the main event of November, The Emperor's New Groove. If you've seen the movie, you know it's a weird, fast-paced, comedy-driven outlier in the Disney canon. The game is exactly the same. It is without a doubt the funniest script I've ever had to read for this channel. David Spade's Cuzco is constantly breaking the fourth wall, mocking the game's mechanics and commenting on your failures. But beyond the jokes, the gameplay is rock solid. It's a variety-filled platformer that keeps throwing new ideas at you. One minute you're running through a 3D jungle, the next you're in a 2D side-scrolling chase, and then you're being transformed into a turtle to slide down a mountain. It's frantic, it's creative, and it perfectly mirrors the energy of the film. It's the peak of the PlayStation movie philosophy we talked about earlier. In a year where the PlayStation 1 was supposed to be dying, Disney released a game that felt more alive than half the game's launch lineup for the next generation.
Ooh, sure glad that's over.
She'll be back. I've seen it in the script. It's my Wampy.
If the year 2000 was a victory lap, Donald Duck, Goin Quackers, or Quack Attack if you're joining us from the PAL region, is the moment the runner decides to start doing backflips. Released in November 2000, this game is a fascinating technical case study. It was developed by Ubisoft, and you can practically feel the Rayman 2 DNA pulsing through its code. What makes Goin Quackers so special is its perspective. It constantly shifts between a 2D side-scroller and a 3D behind-the-back runner, similar to the Crash Bandicoot style we've seen dominate the era. But where many clones felt stiff, Donald feels fluid. The animations are incredibly expressive. His tantrum-prone personality is baked into every jump and double slap. It's one of the best looking games on the system, period. It uses a clean, high-contrast art style that avoids the typical PS1 texture jitter and replaces it with something that looks remarkably like a cartoon. After the muddy, realistic brown tones of Dinosaur, coming back to this vibrant palette is like finally getting your eyesight back.
Hey, Donald, you finally caught up to me. What do you say you and me have a little competition? If you can beat all my time records in this area, then I'll give you something worth running for. Okay, Donald? By the way, good luck. You're gonna need it to break my records.
Now, every massive bundle has its outliers. And for the Disney Part 3, that prize goes to Winnie the Pooh, Preschool and Kindergarten, released simultaneously in November. These are the games that remind us the PlayStation 1 was the everyone console. Usually in this index, we treat educational software like a hurdle to be cleared, a dry mechanical necessity for completion, but looking at these through the lens of late 2000 development, they are surprisingly high effort. They aren't just menus. They are fully voiced interactive environments. For a 3-year-old in the year 2000, this was an entry point into a digital world that felt alive. For me, in my 30s, it's a surreal 10-minute trip into a 100-acre wood that is technically more stable than most of the games I've played in the clearance bin. It's a reminder that even at the very bottom of the age rating scale, the polish of this era was inescapable.
How can I ever thank you enough? Eeyore's gonna be so happy. Well, as happier than Eeyore can be, I suppose. There are, it appears, 2 sets of pipes missing from Tigger's music machine. Roll over the papers to hear the sound we need. Then check the pipes on the conveyor belt for a match.
As we move towards the finish line for this 10-game sprint, we hit the Jungle Book, Rhythm and Groove. This is perhaps the weirdest pivot in the entire bunch. Disney looked at the massive success of Dance Dance Revolution and Papa the Rapper and decided that Mowgli didn't need to jump on platforms, he needed to dance. It is a pure rhythm game using the classic Disney songs you know, but with a challenge curve that is surprisingly steep. It feels like a fever dream. 3D models of Baloo and Bagheera performing synchronised dance routines while you sweat over arrow inputs. It's a perfect example of that year 2000 energy we've been talking about, a fearless willingness to take an established brand and shove it into a completely different genre just to see if the hardware could handle it. It's clunky, it's bizarre, and I absolutely couldn't stop playing it until I'd perfected the bare necessities.
He's hooked, and he'd have made one swell bear. But no worries, 'cause I got you, Baggy buddy. Come on, let's get with the beat.
Before we can officially turn the lights off on this marathon, we have to talk about the actual final piece of software in this 10-game gauntlet, Tigger's Honey Hunt. Released right alongside the other toddler titles in November 2000, this isn't just another educational menu, it's a fully realised 2.5D side-scrolling platformer built specifically as a baby's first video game. You control Tigger as he bounces through the 100-acre woods, collecting honey pots and learning the absolute basics of spatial navigation. It's incredibly simple, pure, but the fluid animations and vibrant art style give it a level of charm that's hard to hate. For me, it's a surreal trip into a world that is technically more stable than most of the active disasters I covered in the clearance bin. Disney wasn't just throwing junk at toddlers anymore, they were building genuine on-ramps into the hobby. It's a quiet, simple deep breath we needed before the final curtain call. Watching the credits roll on Tigger's Honey Hunt feels like a massive exhale after a massive high-energy sprint. It's the perfect quiet bookend to a 10-game run that has been anything but. Back in the first bundle, I felt that distance, that quiet realisation that I was outgrowing the Magic Kingdom. In the second, I found a new respect for their technical ambition. But here, at the turn of the millennium, I've realised that Disney didn't just survive the transition to 3D, they mastered it. They took the aging architecture of 1994 and squeezed every last drop of magic out of it, proving that a licensed game could be just as essential as any first-party flagship.
I say, Tigger, good show. You have collected enough honey pots to help Pooh with his party. Let's go to the next level.
We've survived the clearance bin, we've documented the Bobcat, and now we've conquered the peak of the licensed era. 210 games down, 1068 to go. This is a massive, monolithic task. But the reality is that the modern YouTube algorithm isn't exactly built for an archival marathon like this. The system wants you to stay in your lane. It wants a survival horror channel or a sports specialist. It doesn't know what to do with a project that jumps from the 100-acre woods to the Gridiron, and from gritty shooters to massive RPGs. But this isn't a genre channel, it's a PlayStation project. To keep this 1278 game monolith moving forward, the Index needs your support to stay visible. Right now, only 10% of you watching are actually subscribed. That means 90% of you are drifting through the algorithm like a puppy separated from the other 101. Aimless and at risk of getting lost in the noise. If you want to see the entire North American library documented, hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and drop a comment to help boost that rhythmic and groove in the search rankings. You can also dive into the curated playlists on your screen to see how far we've come. Next time on the PSX Index, we aren't just racing, we're fighting for the fate of the planet. We're trading the Disney magic for some Wampa fruit and a whole lot of nitrous oxide. It's time to see if Naughty Dog's parting gift to the console can truly outrun the competition. Get ready for Index entry 211, Crash Team Racing. The light is turning green, I'll see you at the starting line.